With a quick roll, we'll start with you, Nick.
Nick Dooms, Assistant City Engineer.
Paul Vollert, Public Works Superintendent.
Madeline Palmquist, District 8.
Jeff Benskover, District 4 Alderman.
Dennis Pollock, 6th Ward Alderman.
Matt Zacher, Mayor.
Thanks, everyone. We'll move on to item number 2, review the Engineering and Street Department monthly activity report. We can kick it off with Paul.
Thank you. The report should be attached. Garbage and recycling continues to be on the upside a little bit from previous year. Lincoln Street project, the underground was completed the second week of July, and they've since moved over to 9th Street and are working from Chestnut to Apple Street. The finish grading and everything north of Chestnut was completed early week and a half ago. And as of right now, actually, American Asphalt is just finishing putting the pavement on Birch Street by the library. So tomorrow we will be working on the pavement marking and do everything we can to open it up from East Grand Avenue, to Chestnut Street for traffic. The remainder of the work south of Chestnut is moving along quite well, and look to be completing and getting that traversable here in the next 2 weeks or so, pending weather and things like that. 9th Street, they have completed the sanitary and the water service, like I said, from Chestnut Street up to Apple Street, and that's moving along quite well. For our maintenance activities, the month of July really is working pretty intently on getting ready to do our chip sealing. So we had a majority of our crew doing the hand spraying of the cracks and the radiuses in that area. And then on last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, we were able to complete our spraying and machine spraying or spreading of the chips of approximately 169,000 square yards, which is typically, on an average about 9 miles of roadway that we chip sealed then in 3 days last week. We also assisted wastewater since we had a few weeks without rain. They were able to get rid of some of their Class A sludge from the drying bed area out at the city pit. We had contractors in town for the month of July doing the concrete pavement patches out on Highway 34. And that work out there is also completed. We provided the safety area and traffic control devices for the 4th of July celebration. We participated in the Touch the Truck event out at the Grand Rapids Lions Club, and then also completed our month of July brush collection. Our sign shop has been working pretty steadily on trying to get our pavement marking done. For a week and a half or so, they came in the early morning hours to be able to paint the crosswalks and stop bars on the state highway system and the expressway in A Street. And we're able to complete that, and now we're starting to work on our long line stuff here, starting next week, as well as this week. They also installed banners for the state water ski tournament, and then the flags and things like that for the 4th of July. Luckily, our shop has been able to just kind of work on routine maintenance things. Nothing major has been in there for the month of July. So we get caught up on our maintenance activities. We did take delivery of a street sweeper here 2 weeks ago that was approved back in, I believe it was November of last year. So that was got ready and put into service last week. And that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions, comments on the street report? All right, we'll move to engineering. Go ahead, Nick.
So on the engineering side of things, we've been pretty busy with permitting and construction, pretty typical for summertime for us. On the permitting side of things, we've been overseeing a lot of private utility work in the right-of-way, mainly gas main work and fiber optic line work. We've been busy coordinating the work ahead of those projects. We've been putting together project-specific permit conditions for them, inspecting the work and coordinating the work during construction. And then we typically follow up with final inspections after the work, measuring quantities for degradation fees. So that's kept us fairly busy. One of our larger private utility permit work coming up here is We Energies will be rehabbing a gas main that they have hanging underneath the Grand Avenue Bridge. So we've been working with them to coordinate the work, make sure the traffic control is set up correctly when they do start, and making sure everything is done safely and that sort of thing. So that work is slated to start next Monday. Will last 3 weeks. Contractor will be setting up scaffolding and actually will be rehabbing the pipe by sandblasting and recoating it. And like I said, that'll take approximately 3 weeks to get done. So that's one of our bigger projects coming up that we'll be overseeing. And then also private developments. We've been working with the developer of the Tsunami Car Wash on 8th and Dove, and also the Valvoline oil change at 12th and the Expressway, where they're putting in, actually they're finished they're with their work in the right-of-way for the most part, but was kind of a lot of work overseeing that and making sure that everything's going in correctly. So on the survey and design side of things, we've got most of our survey work complete for next year's design. So Harrison Street from 7th to 9th Avenue, 14th Avenue from Grand to Fremont, and McKinley Street from 8th to 14th. That work, that survey work is all complete. We just have our Plover Street project that we're going to be designing for next year. We still need to do the survey work on that, and that should be starting here in the next couple days here. So design, likewise, has been kind of plugging along real nice. So Harrison Street, 14th Avenue, and McKinley Street, which are slated for next year, we're at about 50 to 60% complete with those projects. And like I said, Plover Street's the one project that's kind of lagging. So we're hoping maybe after a couple weeks of survey work that we can get started on design with that one as well. Another focus we've had is the Mead Field pickleball courts. That's been kind of a big push as of late. We had a pre-construction meeting a couple weeks ago, and we're looking at starting construction next week. So that we've been working with the contractor on. We've been staking, construction stakes for the contractor to make sure they're ready to go. And like I said, work will start next week, and we're hoping to have that done at the middle of October. And then one last thing, just wanted to cover 1 Mile Creek. So it sounds like we've got all our DNR permitting in place now. That's been quite an effort. But now that that's done, we'll be working with Street Department to start drawing down the water here in late summer, early fall, and then eventually hopefully be doing the dredging work over the winter. So that's kind of what's been on our plate recently here.
Thanks, Nick. Questions, comments for Nick? I guess one from me, the predictive mobility project. Hasn't really gone anywhere recently. Are there any updates to speak of, Nick?
Yeah, that one, I'm not sure where things are at with that. I know Joe's been overseeing that. I do know that that's been on hold for a while now, but as far as where things are at, I guess I can't update anything on that.
Okay. All right. We'll move on. Item 3, review and consider sign language and sign placement locations for the 48-hour parking ordinance. Go ahead, Nick.
I'm actually going to take care of that.
Oh, Sorry, Paul.
Nope, it's okay. So the referral is attached. Obviously, last month, the Common Council approved the new language for the parking ordinance to go from the alternate street side parking to the 20, or the 48-hour parking. When the ordinance was redone, if you can remember, part of the previous ordinance, the posting of the signage was part of the ordinance saying that it shall be posted on all state highways and arterial streets and things like that coming into town. That language is no longer in there. And so we just wanted to do two things: go over what the committee's wishes are as far as locations, because I know that that was one of the things that we discussed a little bit not at length, but a little bit, as far as, you know, those locations maybe were not sufficient enough. And then also just to go over the verbiage on the sign itself, so that everyone's wishes are met or whatever, so. So going through the referral, if you were to go, so the item that highlighted in blue, that's actually the current locations of the alternate side parking signs. That meets the requirements of the state highways and the collectors. Joe just did a scan of the city streets using City Viewer or whatever. And so if we chose to go additional signs to just those 12 locations, there would be in total 36 signs, 36 streets coming into the city from whether it be the town of Grand Rapids, Village of Buren, town of Seneca, and the surrounding townships or whatever. So just an estimate as to what that additional cost may be, or total cost may be, for those additional signs. Obviously, a lot of that is dependent if there's a power pole or something that we can band it to, then it's a quicker operation than if there isn't. And then on the back of the referral then is the language that Joe came up with, just simply saying 48-hour parking on all city streets unless posted. And then the paragraph of the ordinance that applies. And then one of the things that we also talked about at one time was putting the QR code in there so that a person could scan it with a link directly to the ordinance then.
Thanks, Paul. Committee, questions, comments?
I have a comment. We had talked about adding the QR code, which I think is great. I like having those on the sign so that people can read the ordinance. We talked about that when we were still talking about having alternative side parking. I don't know if that's a little harder to explain at times than no, or 48-hour parking. I guess it would take them to the ordinance so that they could see what happens if they violated the 48-hour parking rule. I'm torn on the QR code.
Any idea if there'd be a cost savings if it was removed?
I'm sure there would be, you know, because it's something, I don't know that we would have the capability ourselves of printing it, so it would have to be something that we'd probably have a vendor print for us so that we could adhere it to, you know. You could probably also go to a larger font on the regular verbiage itself, you know, without that device or that being in the bottom of it. I think in Joe's comments underneath there, he does say that we could adhere to the back of it, of the sign, you know, so if someone still wanted to have that option, I mean, I guess I don't disagree with you that it's kind of pretty clear what it is right now.
And considering where the signs are going to go, I don't think there's going to be anybody who either can drive at that speed and snap the QR code,
Right.
or will be walking past the sign to get the QR code. I'd be in favor of saving that cost and making the font bigger.
Any feedback on sign locations? I know personally, I think it makes sense to post every entrance to corporate limits. That way it's clear, nobody can argue that, well, hey, I came in from over here and I didn't see the sign, and you know where that leads. I think it kind of takes that argument away if we have every entrance to the city posted. So that would be what I would lean towards.
I agree.
All right, so removal of the QR code, allowing for possibly bigger font, and then posting at every entrance to corporate limits. I would entertain a motion. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Zacher.
You had said, what was the second part, 48-hour parking unless, what was the second part of that?
The sign reads 48-hour parking on all city streets unless posted.
And then also, do we want to put anything in there about snow emergencies, or, because that's the other way that it would be gone, but then it's more writing in there too.
Yeah, so actually, maybe that would be the benefit, I guess, of having the QR code, because that, going back to the referral, under the background information, the ordinance that it would be linked to actually reads 48-hour parking restriction unless authorized, posted, or exempted by the ordinance. No vehicle may park on any city streets in excess of 48 hours. No person shall park, stop, or leave standing any vehicle in violation of this subsection. In the event of emergency, police order, or snow emergency designated by the mayor or their designee, or in the event of a street maintenance restriction, parking on city streets shall be suspended during this time of such order of snow emergency or such street maintenance restriction. But again, to Maddie's point,
Yeah.
So maybe it would be appropriate to leave the chapter 27.13 parent E on the sign?
this is true.
That would take you to the ordinance if you were to visit the city webpage. And I think we do a pretty good job of putting it out there when we have our snow emergencies. I mean, it's in the news, it's everywhere. So, I mean, some folks might not get the message, but I think it's put out there pretty well.
I have a question about the signs. We have the size. So we've got two sizes, 2436 and 2448. What's our standard?
The standard is really traditionally based upon the speed limit. So I believe the current signage is 24 by 48. So I guess it would be my recommendation, that on those higher speed limit areas that we probably, I guess I'd like to see how it lays out on it. But I would traditionally take the effect of 24 by 48 on the state highways, anything over the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. And then if we got some areas that were 25 miles an hour or something, we could go to a little bit smaller sign.
I think that's great. Perfect.
Seems logical to me. Dennis, you have something?
Yeah, I just have a question, basically on how do you enforce that? If someone is parked there for 48 hours, do they have to move their vehicle, or, I mean, it could be visitors, that are in a neighborhood that are spending maybe a weekend or something, but have the police said anything how they would enforce it, or?
I have not had that conversation.
Okay, thank you.
I can find out a little bit more about how they would do that. I believe that was always there anyways, so, you know, like that was always part of the ordinance anyways, that you couldn't be there, so. Typically, I think it's a neighbor calling and saying, hey, this car's been here for quite a few days, and they'll go and either mark it and then give it a ticket eventually, and if it's not gone, they'll come and tow it away after a certain time.
Anyone else? So, Paul, in our motion here, do we want to outline that the streets above 30 mile an hour, we'd want to have the 24 by 48, or do we need to call that out?
I don't think you need to do, I mean, I think I know what your wishes are, and I think we just approve the language of the sign, as shown with the removal of the QR code. And then whatever, if your wishes are to, I think that's what you had said before, is removal of the QR code and posting at all corporate roadways, or all roadways entering the corporate limits, and then retaining that chapter 27.13 para E on the original signage. If you care to say that the larger sign on the higher speed limits, that's fine. Otherwise, like I say, I know your wishes.
Okay.
I would be willing to make that motion, pretty much what Paul had just said, getting rid of the QR code, and I guess I would like to see the bigger signs in the higher speed areas, just to cover our bases, and it seems like we're all on the same page here, so I'll make that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the 48-hour parking on all city streets unless posted sign language and at all corporate limits of the city entrances. Is there a second?
I'd second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it. All right, moving on to item 4, review the referral list. One correction, item number 1, can we remove alderperson in front of Mr. Rayom's name?
Is it also time to remove request 5?
Yeah, I think we've covered that. So item 5 can be removed. Any questions, comments? Go ahead, Jeff.
I would like to add my name to request number 7 as far as paving 3rd Street North and 4th Street North, along with Tom Rayom's name, if that's at all possible.
I do believe Joe was looking into that particular item. Nick, do you have anything to speak to on that?
I believe that might be on our CIP coming up in the next couple of years. I thought I heard some talk about survey work up there, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Both of those projects are on the CIP. We are looking at possibly doing a, because right now there's not any drainage on that street between Cherry Street and Spring Street, about doing some drainage work there this season so that there is drainage, that then would work well with that future possible project that would happen there.
Anything else on the referral list? Anything to add? All right, we'll move on to set the next meeting date. So for September. It looks like the 5th. The 5th at 5 PM. Any objection?
Just giving you a heads up, I will not be here for that.
Okay. Item 6, adjournment. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, respond with aye. Aye?
Aye.
All right, have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.